Welcome to Nightly Scroll. I'm Hayley Caronia. If you're watching on Facebook or X, I urge you to come over to Rumble. We are all scrolling. All my homies are scrolling in the chat. So if you can join us at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, that is where you can watch the entire show in full. And I hope that you do. If you are watching on any of those other platforms, come on over. If you can't catch us at 6, I get it. You can listen or watch whenever you want on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. So thank you for being here. Unfortunately, terror has struck Manchester again, this time at a synagogue on Yom Kippur. Inside the details of what we know now, also 2 Delta planes collided at LaGuardia. Isn't that where President Trump's plane, Air Force One, was almost collided with another plane? Remember the air traffic controller was like, hello, wake up, wake up, wake up. What is happening? We're going to get into it. FCC Chair Brandon Carr may be testifying over Jimmy Kimmel's temporary suspension. Also, more nonsense from Joy Behar and Ana Navarro. Plus, it is Thursday evening, so we've got tactical detail with Scott Bryson. All of that and more on deck on Nightly Scroll. When terror struck Manchester, if you remember, this was in 2017 at an Ariana Grande concert at Manchester Arena, and a radical Islamic suicide bomber killed 22 people and injured over 1,000. Now, unfortunately, another radical terrorist has attacked a Manchester synagogue. Manchester police say they believe the synagogue attacker is a 35-year-old. And you know, I don't normally say the names of these people, but his first name is literally Jihad. Jihad al-Shami is his name. And he is a British citizen, but of Syrian descent. And he rammed his car into the synagogue and then started stabbing people. And unfortunately, 2 people are dead now. 2 men are dead and 3 are in the hospital with serious injuries. And police are saying that this is a terror incident. 2 members of the Jewish community there dead. And he was wearing a vest that looked like it had potentially some kind of explosive device on it, but police confirmed that the device that he was wearing wasn't viable. And the suspect was shot and killed by police officers just minutes after someone had called for their help. But, this took place on Yom Kippur. It's the holiest day in the Jewish calendar. So the attack was declared a terrorist incident. And UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer said that this was Jews being attacked because they are Jews. And I think it's hard to argue otherwise on such a holy day in this religion. And you have someone of Syrian descent. His name is Jihad, and he carries out this act of terror on people who are worshiping. I think that is exactly what we're seeing here. And, originally I had read that officers at first weren't able to identify the suspect because of the potential that he had explosives on him, and a team was kind of working to detonate the potential bombs or whatever the devices that he had on him. Of course, they weren't viable, like I said, so they were able to identify him. But 2 people have been arrested now in connection with this attack. So police are still working on this investigation. It'll be interesting to see how many people were involved in this. Maybe it was just the 2, but interesting to know that 2 people have been arrested. And that's in addition to the man that was killed by police who carried out the attack. So we'll see how big this attack was, but very disconcerting and tragic to see this happen. And then, of course, we saw right here in our country, in Michigan, a similar attack on religion, people worshiping. It's just, you should be able to, worship and not be afraid that you're going to die because of it. It's tragic. So our prayers are with these people who have lost their lives and who are injured fighting for their lives. It's horrific. But I want to get now into this Delta collision. Of course, it wasn't deadly. Of course, no one was hurt badly. There was 1 injury, but 2 Delta planes collided last night. And it was the wing of an aircraft covering, they were departing for Roanoke, Virginia from LaGuardia. And then they collided with another Delta plane arriving from Charlotte, North Carolina. And there were 61 people aboard that plane. And this happened just before 10 p.m. And according to the pilot over air traffic control, they said that the right wing clipped the nose and the cockpit of the other plane. They said that there was damage to the windscreen and some of the other screens in there. One of the flight attendants on board the aircraft suffered, like I said, non-life-threatening injuries. She was taken to the hospital, but she's okay. But, I was reading this article and they were interviewing people who were on the plane, and someone said that the plane that they were on stopped, it jerked, it jumped to the right just after it landed. So interesting. Do you have the flight tracker that we can pull up? I have that there. We can kind of see, because a lot of the pictures and the videos of the incident don't show the incident that well, but this is kind of a recreation of this incident here. So you can watch, this is Flight Radar 24, and you can see both of these Delta planes converging on one another. One is headed down the runway, one is making a turn, and it seems unlikely that they wouldn't have seen each other or they would have known that this is a close call. But the one Delta plane that was making the turn stopped, and the one coming down the runway kept going until that right wing clipped the nose of the other plane that was turning. So someone else that was interviewed said everyone went dead silent. And as everyone went dead silent, the pilot calmly came on and said, "Hey, we've been in a crash." Everyone remained calm, which I did think was a little funny because everyone's dead silent. And the pilot's like, "Everyone, calm down." Everyone's dead silent. Calm down. But I mean, yeah, what else are you supposed to say? I mean, we got into a crash.
You think accidents happen. How does that happen?
Too many accidents are happening. Let's just say that.
How does that go down that way, though? I mean, they're navigated. They know what runway to land on and how to navigate to the terminal that they're supposed to be in. And how do you not see?
How?
We've seen a lot of these, like it seemingly preventable accidents,
right,
from happening. It's been the story seemingly of 2025. No,
and I guess this might be. Well, first of all, you can't just rely on air traffic control because, if both of these pilots they have good vision, I assume, you can't see that you're about to hit this plane. I mean, I'm also blaming air traffic control because they're supposed to be doing their jobs as well. But maybe if you think, whatever. I've heard that they weren't going that fast. Again, I'm not a pilot. I'm not an expert. Maybe if he was able to slow down and stop, he would have. Maybe he couldn't in time. But it just seems odd that this is all happening at LaGuardia Airport.
Do traffic rules apply? Like, it felt like maybe the one that was in the turning lane was a little too far out in the road.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I mean, so either way, though, the pilot that's coming down the runway after he landed can't stop in the runway and let the guy back up.
Right. Someone in the chat asked, is everyone okay? Yes, everyone is okay. Like I said, one of the flight attendants went to the hospital, but she is okay. And that was the only person injured. So out of the, almost 100 people, everyone was fine, which is great. And they weren't moving that fast. This could have been way worse, by the way. And it begs the question, what is going on at LaGuardia? Because I don't think that this is just an air traffic control question, because we would be seeing incidents like this all over the place. It seems like a lot of this is concentrated at LaGuardia, especially because just a few weeks ago, Air Force One was also having an issue at LaGuardia with a Spirit Airlines pilot not looking where he's going, and you could hear over air traffic control the guy saying, "Hello, the big white and blue one, you can't miss us. You can't miss us. The president's on the plane. Relax."
I believe he said,
Stop
don't you know what that is?
iPad.
That big blue thing. Do you not know what that is?
I mean, and he said, "Stop scrolling on the iPad," as in pay attention. So I don't know what is going on with this. It does not make me excited to fly. We're flying next week. Doesn't make me excited to fly. That's a little tease. We have some exciting things coming on the show next week. But yeah, it's disconcerting. Also, there's a lot of grumblings online. Of course, everything happens something happens at an airport and it goes wrong and everyone's like, it's DEI. But it's so interesting because people on the left are blaming the government shutdown because airlines have warned that if the government shuts down, which it has, this could strain, aviation in the United States because it could potentially slow flights down. Air traffic controllers would be among the workers that are forced to work without pay. We're not there yet. I don't think they've gotten a paycheck or not a paycheck yet. But just because you're not getting paid doesn't mean you start dicking around at work and you're like, oh, well, maybe I'll just get into a little fender bender because I didn't get my last paycheck. Like, I don't think that's how this works. I don't really think that you can blame, the Republicans or the Democrats even, or Trump or this government shutdown for this kind of thing. I think there's an issue with either pilots not paying attention, air traffic controllers not paying attention, and maybe that is because of DEI or policies that allow people who are not as prepared or not as competent to take on these roles. Maybe that has to do with it. I don't know.
Do people have any kind of statistic on LaGuardia in and of itself being like massively overcrowded and overused as an airport? I mean, if you're dealing with plus 30% of to what the airport can handle, it seems like these things are just like it's amazing that this stuff hasn't happened more.
I also have read that LaGuardia Airport has a lot of complaints among pilots. It's hard to land planes. I don't know what it is about that. Again, I am not an expert, but I did see a lot of pilots or even former pilots saying on X and in interviews and whatever, saying, LaGuardia is a nightmare. So I don't know what it is about it. I'm not a pilot. I don't know, but apparently it's a hard airport to navigate. And they have complaints. So maybe it's just something else. Maybe it's just a structural thing or the size of something. I don't know. But it seems like that's a problem considering LaGuardia Airport has just been revamped and there's been all these updates and they've made it brand new. I mean, LaGuardia is my airport of choice to fly into when I go into New York. I would rather go to LaGuardia than JFK. LaGuardia is much closer. And I don't really fly into Newark unless I'm going to see friends in Jersey. So I always fly into LaGuardia, and I have friends who live in Queens. It's easier to get to, most of my friends are on the east side and whatnot. So I don't know. Doesn't make me feel good though. Does not make me feel good. All right. Quick update on Brandon Carr and the whole Jimmy Kimmel situation. So FCC Chair Brendan Carr has reportedly agreed to testify in front of the Senate Commerce Committee. And this is all because of the Jimmy Kimmel thing, the incident, his suspension. Apparently, this was reported by Semaphore originally, and Brendan Carr, they say, has agreed to testify after speaking to the Commerce Committee chair, Senator Ted Cruz, this week. And this planned testimony has not been made public yet. And the date has not been set, but it's supposed to be sometime in November or after November. And I just want to say, if this is true and Brandon Carr does have to testify, he's got nothing to hide. Jimmy Kimmel facing a temporary suspension fueled the left's fascism narrative that they're so obsessed with because, Trump and his big bad fascist government are going to go silence comedians who make jokes about him. When in reality, we know that's not what happened. That's not why Jimmy Kimmel was fired. It's not even close to what happened. A lot of people make jokes about President Trump and they don't lose their jobs, right? So this obviously had to do with the fact that he was saying that Charlie Kirk's killer was MAGA when he wasn't, so he lied, and there are rules when you were on broadcast television, and he broke those rules. Plus, I don't know how you can blame President Trump or President Trump's administration for this at all, because ABC, Sinclair, and Nexstar all played parts in this. They all made individual decisions about what to do at separate times, by the way. ABC made their own decision to suspend him. And then, of course, Sinclair and Nexstar made their own decisions. Sinclair was kind of like, well, we'll have to see how this all goes down. Nexstar brought him back. Sinclair, these are all moving parts, separate moving parts. So you can't just blame Trump. But of course, the left is doing that because that's what they do. But they all came to the same conclusion, ultimately, that Jimmy Kimmel would be brought back. They all brought him back. So again, if President Trump is this fascist dictator who's trying to silence the people who make fun of him, he really is the worst fascist of all time. He can't even silence his opponents for more than a few days. And he can't get, ABC to listen to him or Nexstar or Sinclair or whoever. So clearly he doesn't have this dictatorial control that the left thinks that he does. And the Biden administration, by the way, did a much better job of silencing their opponents and critics during COVID-19 because they bullied social media platforms to silence way more than just one comedian. But who's keeping score? Also, let's get into Sombrero Gate quickly, because Sombrero Gate has turned into Minion Gate. And now we've got all these government officials on the record talking about memes and being asked about memes and jokes and AI. And the way that they respond to the jokes and the memes, it really separates the boys from the men. So let's start with the men. Here is Speaker Mike Johnson saying that he can take a joke.
You asked me this morning about sombreros and memes and why Hakeem Jeffries is all alarmed by that. But look, these are games. These are sideshows. People are getting caught up in battles over social media memes. We've got to keep this is not a game. We've got to keep the government open for the people. I don't know why this is so complicated. And to my friend Hakeem, who I was asked about, man, just ignore it. I mean, Gavin Newsom was trolling me last night. He painted me like a minion. He painted me yellow with big glasses and overalls. And I thought it was hilarious. You don't respond to it. For all my friends, R's and D's, don't respond to it. Get to work, do the people's business, and let's get...
Amen. Especially the get to work part. Can we stop doing media interviews at all? Don't go on MSNBC. Don't go on Fox, CNN, whatever. Get to work. You have a government to open back up. And the fact that they're doing all these interviews and they're talking about memes and jokes and all this stuff, it's like they're jokes. I mean, they literally are jokes. And it was just a little refreshing to hear the Speaker of the House say, my R's and D's, my friends on both sides of the aisle, can you just leave it alone? If someone puts you in a damn sombrero, just ignore it. Ignore it. And honestly, that's how they should be responding anyway. It's so stupid. And it was also refreshing to hear Mike Johnson say, yeah, Gavin Newsom turned me into a minion. It was funny. I laughed. We should be able to do that and move on and then also do your job. But here is how Tampon Tim is reacting to all the memes, the AI videos, and here's what he had to say.
The Trump administration will start firing workers instead of furloughing them, and you think it might target workers in blue states?
I do. I think it goes back to this question, Tom, that it appears like they're trying to do that. The disruption is there. The willingness of the Speaker of the House to blatantly, I have seen Fox News even correct this issue, that trying to tell the public we're in a massive misinformation campaign. The President himself tweeting out AI videos of fake news reports on health care. This is really dangerous, and it's really hard. And I cannot express to you the concern and the absolute bafflement and fear of our European allies asking me, is this stuff really going on? So yeah, I have a feel that they do that. And again, they're going to tell you this, and like with the VA, and this is what really drives me crazy, they'll come back and tell you, oh, we're not firing anybody important. We're not going to fire doctors. No, just the people who change the linens or get the surgical instruments cleaned so they're ready to go. Those people aren't there. Or the IT, the people that allow you to schedule your appointment with the VA. There's a reason that all these people work together in agencies, and everybody's valuable in them. So yes, I do worry about that, Tom.
He's worried about it. He said that he was concerned about something President Trump posted that was an AI fake news report on healthcare. I scrolled through Trump's Truth Social account, and I did not know what he was talking about. Did you?
I have not seen that. No, when I cut that video, I didn't. I Googled searched that, and I could not find it.
I didn't even know what he was talking about. Maybe it was the RFK Jr. in the the RFK Jr. video in the from Scrolling Time the other day. Maybe he was talking about that. No, I honestly, I have no idea what he's even talking about. And I tried to look into it. Didn't know. I didn't see any AI fake news report or healthcare report that Trump put out. So I don't know, but he's calling it dangerous misinformation, a misinformation campaign, which is funny too, because Do you remember last week when Jimmy Kimmel was suspended and Democrats were fighting for the right to joke around and to tell jokes? And if you can't tell jokes, then it's an infringement on your First Amendment right. And, it was fascist to crack down on cracking jokes. They just don't like it when they're the butt of the joke and it's President Trump doing the memeing. But they have no issue with Gavin Newsom turning J.D. Vance into a balloon or Mike Johnson into a minion. If they didn't have double standards, they would not have standards at all. I want to talk to you about Genucel quickly. Do you have a double chin forming? I know some of us probably do. And here's a newsflash. People do look at your jawline. And as you get older, it tells your age. So introducing the brand new Genucel neckline lift. It has a dual peptide and MDL technology. This is Genucel's most advanced technology ever. And it could not only help tighten saggy skin around the neck and chin, but could also help plump the lipophilic layers of your skin to help contour and define the neckline within minutes. It is using peptides and metolactones together. It works amazingly quick, and you can see results get better every single day. So with Genucel's MDL technology, Genucel's brand new neckline lift specifically targets that delicate skin on the neck area to help you see tight, healthy, younger looking skin. You will see results or 100% of your money back, no questions asked, with their 120-day money-back guarantee. Order now, and the Genucel immediate effects for noticeable results in just minutes with your order. No double chin, no turkey neck, no sagging neckline, because no one needs to know your age. Genucel.com/scroll, Genucel.com/scroll. Order now and get free priority shipping. Go to Genucel.com/scroll, Genucel.com/scroll. All right. Joy Behar is such a downer. Listen to this.
If you guys think that we can survive another 3.5 years of this, I think you're delusional. Every day there's some nihilistic
it's only
thing.
Tuesday, Joy. Can we not start there? You're the one who
I
always
hate to
tells
be
me,
Debbie
though,
Downer,
but
but every
always tell
day
me
this guy
country
is
survived a lot.
undoing something in this country that we value. Every day. It's every day is a shock and awe here. And I, for one, am skeptical that we will survive this.
I am not.
I am
so
not.
if you need
No,
that
you
from
am
me,
not.
I do believe
But Joy,
believe in our
you've
system.
seen worse.
No,
right?
no, I
You've
have
seen
not.
Worse.
No, I grew up during World War II.
It's Whoopi that says she's seen worse.
No, I
All right, I'm
going to
need Whoopi to cheer us up.
No, but every
Cuban Missile
every
Crisis,
president,
civil rights.
And they were all dealt with by presidents who were not, in the business of destroying the country and destroying the Constitution.
I'm hopeful.
I'm hopeful.
I mean, we always had presidents who followed the law, including Nixon. As bad as he was, he had respect for the Constitution. And he
not all
didn't.
the time.
And he didn't go after the military and call them names. I've never heard of such a thing in this country.
First of all, no one's calling the military names. Pete Hegseth just doesn't want fat generals, which is fine, by the way, and not controversial. But, when she said everything is shock and awe here, that's the media industry that she's a part of. She is a part of a media industry that gets clicks and gets viewers. And in order to maintain clicks and viewers, you have to entertain people. Whether it's a news program or an entertainment program or whatever, they kind of straddle the line and do both. You have to keep people entertained. You tend to cover stories that are shocking and get people's attention rather than some stories that might be a little boring but are really important. And that's just the nature of putting together a show that has a finite amount of time. There's always stories that hit the cutting room floor. That's the way this goes. I have so many stories that I plan. Like, I have 17 things on this list right now. We might not get to all of them. And there were things that I took out and I was like, let me do this tomorrow, or let me do this, or nah, I'm not going to do that. I mean, this is just the nature of putting a show together. You can't cover everything, and the things that you do cover tend to be really interesting. So when she says, every day we come in here and it's just a shock and it's this after this, like, she's a part of that because that's the industry that she works in. That's the nature of the business. So I don't know why she seemed so shocked by the shock value that she's a part of every day. But her saying, we're not going to survive another 3 years. We survived Trump's first 4. We survived Biden's 4. the world keeps spinning. It doesn't matter who's in office, the world keeps spinning. I hate when people talk like this. It's so dramatic. You know, the sky is falling. We're all going to die. Medicare cuts. Old people are going to die, like Rosie O'Donnell said the other day. It's so hyperbolic, and it's not at all rooted in reality. What has President Trump done now? What has he done that's going to make the sky fall and we're all going to die? The government is shut down, right? But the government is shut down before. We didn't die. You know, she just needs to relax and change her mindset. It's like, it's her, it's the Rosie O'Donnells. They create these negative realities in their head, and then they live in that reality, and they think that that's what the world is like. But they're really creating this negative spiral for themselves.
You know what the fact is? I bet you anything that after Trump won, she had more money in her 401k. Talk about surviving. After Trump won, I bet you anything she had more money in her 401k than she did after Biden. So she can talk about like how we're not going to be able to survive these next couple of years. But like, I bet you anything after Trump won, after, 2019, 2020, before COVID, she had more money in her 401k than she had at the end of Biden.
I would put money on it. Gas prices are down. Egg prices are down. Anyway, another thing Trump has apparently done wrong, according to the left, is bring prescription drug prices down for Americans. But Ana Navarro was on CNN, and she is more concerned about potential tariffs and what that will do for her Ozempic. Watch this.
I read last week that Trump was threatening to impose a huge tariff on foreign patented drugs, which many Americans depend on. And that it was supposed to go into effect October 1st. Did that happen?
So it's interesting. With
She's
the Trump
concerned.
RX plan, Pfizer, which would potentially be open to those tariffs, is supposedly getting an exemption in order to participate in this plan. So tariffs, and this is a great example of state capitalism, tariffs are being used as a tool, as a cudgel, as a sort of a carrot and a stick for companies as and when. And you never know when the rules are going to change. It could be one thing today, the next thing tomorrow. But this is about holding individual CEOs, individual companies, individual industries in some cases to heal.
Well, good luck to him if he puts a 100% tariff on Ozempic. We're all going to get fat again.
I mean, and everybody's operating at the whim of Donald Trump. I mean, but
We're all going to get fat again because of tariffs? And the only way to get skinny, apparently, is to be on Ozempic?
Ozempic.
Ozempic.
Come on. Get in the gym.
My thoughts exactly. If you need Ozempic to be skinny, I'm not talking about people who are diabetic. I'm not talking about people who have an actual medical problem who require it. I'm talking about all the Americans who are taking some kind of weight loss drug, whatever it is. And, they were talking about this deal that President Trump struck with Pfizer. Pfizer doesn't make Ozempic. They might make some other kind of semaglutide, Wegovy type thing. I don't know, but they don't make Ozempic. So if she is on this brand name drug, I think she's just personally concerned about her own stash, which is fine. She can be concerned about that. But I just thought it was funny that she was like, we're all going to get fat now, thanks to Trump. It's always Trump's fault.
Hoard the Ozempic. Hoard the Ozempic.
It started with the toilet paper during COVID, and now it's Ozempic. Everyone, stock up. Stock up. Or, like Andy said, you could go to the gym. You could try that. You could try putting the fork down. You could also try to do that. Anyway, let's skip to number 9. One last story before we bring in Scott Bryson here, because I do want to talk to him, too, about that New York police officer detective who was an imposter. So I have 2 imposter stories. First is a 22-year-old who used a fake ID and other fake documents to enroll in high school, and he posed as a 17-year-old. So this was White Bear Lake High School in Minnesota. And they literally let a 22-year-old grown man enroll in their high school, and he went by the fake name KJ Perry. He even joined the football team, and he was in school for about a month before people realized that he was a grown man who, by the way, had some pedophilic tendencies. Isn't that comforting? Isn't that comforting for the parents? So according to the district's guidelines, students have to present a birth certificate or another official proof of a birth date, proof of your address and immunization records in order to be enrolled. And apparently he did that. They are still looking into how he was able to provide these documents with this fake name. So not only is he a pedophile, but he has also gotten these fraudulent documents. And so he's had allegations of indecent exposure, also inappropriate online contact with a juvenile. He was previously convicted of sending explicit images to a 15-year-old. And here's some more information about this guy. So he was reportedly adopted from Liberia at age 5. And he's been living in the area with caretakers. Now, those caretakers spoke with a local news outlet, and they said that he may suffer from, get this, age dysphoria.
So he can go back and join the football team?
It's age dysphoria. This is the slippery slope, guys. This is the slippery slope when conservatives are talking about voter ID and the need to actually prove that you are a citizen of this country and prove that you are who you say you are in order to vote. And then, of course, to get licenses and IDs. This is why this is important. You know, we're trying to combat fraud across the board, right? You shouldn't be able to fake who you are when you go to vote, and you shouldn't be able to fake who you are when you enroll for school. Also, wouldn't it be odd for a school? Like, did the caretakers sign him up for school? I've never heard of a child enrolling themselves in school. Normally it's a parent or an adult or a guardian who handles something like that.
What class was he in?
All
was
of
he
them.
like a 20? No, I mean, was he 22-year-old freshman, sophomore, junior?
That's a good question.
Because it'd be awesome
Well,
if
he
he
was
was
a
driving himself to school as a 22-year-old freshman.
Well, he was 17. He was posing as a 17-year-old, so probably junior or senior. Probably senior.
This is just so many failures. This is about as bad as the superintendent. The guy that's you know what I mean? The superintendent that like nobody, he wasn't even a citizen. He wasn't even a citizen, and he's a superintendent.
I would say that one. Well, they're both horrible. I would say this one is worse only because this guy is clearly a pedophile. And he's obviously doing this to get closer to young girls, which is horrific. The other guy in wherever that was in Iowa, he had weapons charges. I'm not saying that he's, a great guy and he should be around kids. Of course he should not. But, he wasn't like doing any harm to the kids yet. Anyway, it's both bad. But the caretaker said that he has 2 birth certificates too. Again, I blame the caretakers. I blame the parents. This kid is clearly, I say kid. He's not a kid. He's a grown man. He's clearly troubled, and these caretakers, bless their hearts. I just don't think they were doing that great of a job, clearly. I don't know how this happens. I don't know how the school doesn't do background checks. Where does he get the fake documents? Why did his caretakers know that he had 2 birth certificates? I don't get that. Also, you're 22 years old and people are still taking care of you. Like, why is that? I guess that's more common nowadays. Kids are kind of like, some failure to launch kids stay at home longer, but I don't know. All right, here's another imposter story. There was an NYPD detective who showed up at the Ryder Cup. He was on sick leave, but he showed up anyway in full gear and claimed he was working security for President Trump, which I guess was enough because they let him in. He was in full tactical gear. His name is Detective Melvin Ang, and now he's facing administrative charges for theft of services. He also... He almost got away with this, but he dropped his magazine in the grass. And then I think another cop was like, what's going on? And then they realized that he was a cop that was on sick leave and he wasn't supposed to be there. So then he was removed. But a police source told the New York Post, what if he was looking to hurt someone? You know, just because you're a police officer, and I have the utmost respect for law enforcement and veterans and all these, but that doesn't make you a good person, right? You can have good intentions, and you could even be a great cop or a patriot, and then you could be radicalized or something could happen. You know, just because you are in one of these groups doesn't make you a good person. I mean, clearly he was trying to get into the Ryder Cup to do what? I don't know. Maybe he just wanted to go to the Ryder Cup, and he was like, well, I'm on sick leave. I guess I could just wear my uniform and get in. Maybe he just wanted to like see President Trump. Maybe he just wanted to, and that's as innocent as it gets, right? This is me giving all the grace in the world. You know, I have this badge. I can use it to get into this event that I want to get into. That's best case scenario, which is also bad, right? But you don't know what he was planning.
Yeah, so how unethical or illegal is it to put on your uniform like that for stuff that's not like technically like? I mean, he was on vacation, he was sick leave. So showing up like you're on duty, I mean, that's against. I mean, Scott will know, but that's against.
I know. So we're gonna bring in Scott. We're gonna bring in Scott to talk about this. So tactical detail starts right now. Scott, did you hear that story about the NYPD? He was on sick leave. He showed up to the Ryder Cup. You need to explain to me how this works. If you are a police officer and you are tasked with maybe some kind of event security, is there a leadership person that you check in with? Like, how is it possible that he shows up in his gear? He's not, on the schedule, if you will. I don't know the correct terminology. You can tell me. But certainly there's a plan of like what cops are supposed to be there and who's not supposed to be there. So he was on sick leave. How is it that he showed up with his badge and all that? And I guess other cops were just like, okay, he's a cop. Fine. We buy it that you're a part of President Trump's security. I don't get how this happens.
Yeah, it's very difficult situation to sort of explain, I guess. I'll do my best. It's very odd. I like the fact that you gave this guy grace, because it could have been that. It could have been just a looky-loo trying to get in and do something for free. Because unfortunately, and I want to be very careful how I talk about this topic, because I've been in law enforcement for 30 years and I'm as true blue as they come. But there are 10% knuckleheads in every profession, right? Cops get a bad rap all the time for being aggressive. They're really not, because, by and large, most cops are good people. But you've got your 10% that are going to try to do something for free or finagle the system or whatever. So there's that. There are bad doctors. We all know that. But tonight we're talking about law enforcement. So the problem I have with the situation is there is a roll call, right? The Secret Service is going to have their roll call and manpower brief, and then the police are going to do theirs. The problem is, if this guy, he looked like he was a seasoned veteran to me. The first thing that when I saw the picture today, like the dude was in shorts. So that was my first red flag. Like, I'm not saying cops don't wear shorts, because there's bike patrol and different things like that.
Right.
But this guy was in tactical gear, but it looked to me like he was wearing shorts, which I thought was super weird. The problem is, if he's got a little time on the job, which he looked like he did, he probably knows how to beat the system, so to speak. So if there's a roll call, we'll just make up a number at 9:00 in the morning. Well, he might show up at 9:30 or 10 o'clock, and then he's just going to walk in. And half the time, if you act like you know what you're doing, then people are going to let you in, because you're only as good as your weakest link. And I mean that with all due respect toward the Secret Service, toward the FBI, toward the police or whatever. But if there's a person X on a post and they see, like if I was standing post in the parking lot and this dude came walking by, I'd probably be like, hey, good morning. I mean, why would you think to stop him? It's very tricky. So I think what we're going to have to do as an agency, not we, the Secret Service is going to have to really just button down the hatches, and we're going to have a little bit more oversight, which guys don't like. No one likes a micromanager. I'm not suggesting that, but we're going to have to do something to like double or triple check with, like, if the site agent's going to have to maybe hook up with the sergeant or the lieutenant or whoever the incident commander is, and then make sure It's unfortunate that we have to do that, but that's the lengths that we're going to have to go to. I don't see what else we can do.
Yeah, and I feel like, I'm sure you can speak to this. I mean, you were just saying, if he walked by you, you'd say, hey, how are you? You'd try to kind of maybe start some small talk and figure out, who he works for. And, if he's wearing tactical gear, and maybe if he showed his badge, I mean, wouldn't his badge have been NYPD? Then he wouldn't have been on President Trump's security detail, would he have been?
No. I mean, there's definitely a couple of different red flags. The thing is, you're going to have to know, number one, you're going to need to know what district you're working in. If a guy from, a cop showed up with a badge from North Carolina, that would be weird because we're in New York, right? So you're going to need to know the borough you're in or the district you're in. So you need to know what they do is they can't even talk. They pass around notebooks or different pictures like, okay, this is what the uniform looks like. This is what the patch looks like. This is what the badge looks like. And if it doesn't match that, then you should lead to some secondary questions because a guy in a uniform at first glance is probably going to look like he fits in. But if you look and say, well, wait a minute, that doesn't look right. Just like the guy that got caught out at Charlie Kirk's funeral. I wanted to talk about this, but we had so much going on we didn't get to. He was purporting to be the sheriff's deputy from North Carolina, and he had a gun.
I don't think I heard about this.
You didn't hear about this?
No. What? Someone was at Charlie Kirk's memorial?
Charlie Kirk,
the day before?
The day before the Friday.
Yeah. Sorry.
The guy had a knife and a gun and a badge, and he got questioned. Now, he looked like he could have been a vice and narcotics guy because he looked pretty ragged. Of course, he was not the police, but somebody was paying attention. What it boils down to people being attentive, situationally aware, paying attention to detail, just like the agent that found the barrel sticking out at the golf course when the guy he didn't get a shot off, thank God, but they tried to take Trump out the second time. And because a guy was paying attention, he shut it down. Here's what it boils down to, Hayley. You have to hire qualified people. And I'm not suggesting that the people working that day weren't qualified because I don't know who was working and who wasn't working. And I don't know anything about those officers or those agents. But you get what you pay for. And, we're not talking about DEI tonight necessarily, but the standard is the standard. And if the person can't make those psychological evals or physical performance, they can't be on the job, period.
No, I totally get that. And it makes me concerned to know that President Trump is there. Of course, athletes are there. There are, thousands of spectators there. There was Governor Kathy Hochul there, right? I mean, there was, I don't even know if there would be NYPD officers there. It seems like they would have enough officers with Suffolk County and Nassau County. But again, I don't know.
Well, can I just say one thing? The problem with these venues are like the Secret Service, by and large, they do a good job. And I know the last year and a half has been rough on my guys, and they've taken some black eyes and they've deserved it. Okay, I've been hard on them too on my podcast because we're gonna speak truth to power. And we're gonna call balls and strikes even when it hurts. But you have a large venue like that. The Secret Service only has a handful of agents that can do the job, and without the police, you cannot do that job. It is just too large. It is gigantic. I can't even begin to explain how difficult that job is. And without the local police or the states or state guys or whomever, you can't do that job. So we rely heavily on those guys, but they've got to come up with a way. In my humble opinion, they're going to have to, the management's going to have to come up with a way to vet this stuff a little more. You wouldn't think you'd have to do something like this if the police are showing up to do a roll call and go to work. You would think they were supposed to. Why would a guy? I get tired of wearing my uniform. Why would you want to put your uniform on a day you're off and go do something? To me, it's completely weird.
Yeah, and he's on sick leave. I don't know why he was on sick leave, but it seems like to me he just wanted to go to the Ryder Cup, which
that's what I think it was, but who knows?
Go buy a ticket. I want to talk to you. There are a few other, just horrific incidences that have happened. There was a shooting in North Carolina at a restaurant. It was the American Fish Company bar, and a former Marine opened fire from a boat. We've talked about a lot of these instances where people are shot at a church or a place of worship or a concert or an outdoor venue. Like, we've been talking about all this. We talked last week about the wedding venue restaurant type thing and a shooting, and you mentioned, go out the kitchen. There's an exit there, just ways to think about this. When you are sitting at a bar at a restaurant and you are on the water, now you have to be concerned about someone riding along and shooting you from a boat too.
I mean, you can't make this stuff up. If I was writing a book or movie, I wouldn't even think of something this atrocious. I mean, it's even opened my eyes. I'm going to have to tell it myself here for just a second because I'm going to be transparent. 99% of the time, I always carry. But what if it's Saturday morning and I want to go down to get some grass seed and, work in my yard or go get a cup of coffee real quick and come back before everybody gets up moving around the house? There's been a few times when I don't carry. Well, that's over with. That ship has just officially sailed for me. I know Southport. I go to the beach about 30 minutes away from there. And the thought of going to a restaurant, sitting out, having a beer, having something to eat, listening to live music, you can't enjoy life anymore. I don't know what in the world's happened. We have devolved into a third world banana republic before our own very eyes. And there's no real way to fix this other than you have to carry. That's all you can do.
I know. Well, at a bar, right? If you're being served alcohol, bars don't allow you to carry in some cases, in most cases. So that's a situation where it's kind of like one of these gun-free zones, right? Where someone who has a vested interest in wreaking havoc somehow, doing harm to people, they are going to look at these venues as open targets. It's going to be open season. Oh, it's a school, it's a bar, it's a nightclub, it's somewhere where you can't defend yourself. I'm going to target that place now. That's what this seems like. And, I want to talk too about this guy being a Marine vet, right? Because we just saw this with the killing at the Michigan Mormon church, and he was a Marine veteran, and now we're seeing this Marine veteran. I believe it was a veteran also who lit that Tesla on fire in Las Vegas, I believe it was. Wasn't that New Year's Eve?
Outside the Trump Hotel.
Outside the Trump Hotel? Where was that?
Yeah. That was an Army guy.
In Vegas.
It was in Vegas, yeah. So an Army guy. So I wanted to talk to you about, and the shooting in New York City at the NFL headquarters that we had talked about weeks ago. That guy is now confirmed that he had some kind of a traumatic brain injury. He had CTE. So when we're talking about people who have a traumatic brain injury, like I just said, or maybe some kind of PTSD from service, how do we get these men help?
Well, if I had the answer to that question, I could retire. I mean, the VA's absolutely failed these guys miserably. And I wasn't in the military, so I can only say so much from the cheap seats. But I've heard my friend Carl Higbee talking about it, and Sean Ryan talks about all these guys, these household names talk about it. And it's just pathetic that the level of care these guys have received. TBI is a real thing. PTSD is a real thing. CTE is a thing. I mean, I know we're not talking about this tonight, but like as an example, Junior Seau, I don't know if you remember him or your audience knows him. Junior Seau was a linebacker in the NFL for a long time, and he tried to kill himself a couple of times before he was actually successful because his brain was jacked up. And the point of the matter is this guy needs help. I didn't know this about him until today. I did a little bit more research. I saw a video with him in 2012 with Kelly Pickler at the CMA Awards, and you could see the massive scar and kind of like a dent in his head, and it hurts your heart for these guys. They enlist and they go over and they give blood, sweat, and tears, and they come home and they're all messed up. And it doesn't excuse it by any means. I can't believe that he did something this atrocious, but we have got to find a way to help these people. And other than the community churches pouring into them and your family network, you can't rely on we've seen over and over. The big government just isn't the answer.
Yeah, I agree. Government isn't the answer. It just breaks my heart because we talk about this all the time. And the common thread between all of these is mental illness, right? Because no one in their right mind is going to carry out an attack like this on innocent people. So it's very sad. I want people, I wish I could urge people to go to therapy, but then seeing how the therapy industry has been so indoctrinated and been wokeified, if you will, it's like, how can you even tell people to go get help? And then who knows? I mean, we have therapists who are, just affirming people's worst delusions. And it just seems like we're in a very hopeless place. But I want to, last question for you, talk about conservatives re-entering this space where they're going back on campus. Steven Crowder is bringing back his Change My Mind tour. We've seen other people like Megyn Kelly, Ben Shapiro. They're going to be going out and speaking at campuses. And Turning Point USA just had a big event in Utah. It was their first event in Utah since Charlie Kirk's assassination. And there was a bomb threat the day of. So how can we make sure that these people are safe? Especially with Steven Crowder, I saw he posted a video or a photo or something. I saw his tent set up, and he just was kind of like out in the open, which I respect, because it's like, you can't be afraid, but how can he and others stay safe doing this kind of thing?
Yeah, well, I've always liked Steven. He's very outspoken, and I love that about him. He's very bold. But from the video you're showing here, he did put on some body armor, it looks like. It looks to me like they also brought in some type of ballistic shield. It wasn't necessarily a shield, but more like a glass structure. Of course, the tent that he's under is nothing more than concealment. That's not going to be cover. He's going to have to really, number one, he's going to have to vet his security team thoroughly. And I want to say this. I started not to tell you this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I actually received a text this week from a friend of mine. I turned down a job to go do some executive protection work for Turning Point USA. And honestly, that was hard to say no to because I'm not good at much, but I'm good at that. And so I said no to it. But they're going to have to vet their people thoroughly, and they're going to have to get the local police on board. You're going to have EMTs on board. It costs money. You have to. I say this all the time, and I know people probably tired of hearing me say that. But what's your appetite for risk? Whoever's controlling these purse strings, you've got to build in budget for your security personnel. That it is what it is. We're very, very quickly, unfortunately, we're turning into Israel and Gaza before our very own eyes in a different way, right? You're going to be sitting out here having tea and something getting blown up one day. I hope I'm wrong. But like you can't go to a fish camp and have a drink, much less go out here and say something controversial. I mean, it's absolutely sad the state of affairs that we're living in. And I'm very proud of people like Steven Crowder and the others that are going out there. That takes some real manhood, but they're going to have to do like what we talked about last or 2 weeks ago, the concentric rings of protection. You're going to work from the inside out. I'm sure he's got close protection guys, the bodyguard types. They're going to shield him from a knife attack or a punch or something. Like, we're not worried about getting punched in the face. We're worried about getting shot in the face. So they're going to have to push the perimeter out. They're going to have to take out the high ground. They're going to have to do the 360. They're going to have ballistic. I mean, it's going to cost money. It's going to cost money. It's going to take manpower. It's absolutely ridiculous.
I also feel like we kind of have to, and I don't want this, but I feel like you have to move away from a random crowd type thing where it's just anybody can come up to the microphone. I think all of these people are going to have to be vetted. Maybe it's a ticket, so at least you have everyone's name. Maybe you have to show ID. Maybe you have to prove that you're a student. Something like that, where it's the people who are in the crowd are vetted somehow. I mean, when we talked about Charlie Kirk's assassination, there was the George Zinn guy who's 71 years old. I mean, what are you doing on a college campus watching Charlie Kirk speak? This is supposed to be like a campus tour. And I'm not saying, it's a public university, so I guess like anyone can just walk on campus, I guess, and show up to these events. But I think moving forward, these college campus events, when people in conservative media want to go into these spaces and actually have constructive conversations with college students, I think it's going to have to be banned. Like, anyone else is going to have to be banned from it. It's just going to have to be college students. Not saying that college students can't take someone out. We've seen that. They can do that. But if you make sure they're an actual college student, they go to the college that the event is at, we have their name, maybe it's a ticket, maybe it's a paid event. I mean, you got to have some kind of a barrier. and a paper trail for these people.
Yeah, I totally agree. You're going to have to treat it like honestly, you're going to have to treat it like a presidential or vice presidential event, or like a national security event, the NSSEs that the Secret Service runs. You're going to have to vet these people. And the best way to do that is with a ticketed event, right? You're going to have some type of mechanism it could be a link, whatever, QR code. You're going to have to prove who you are,
right,
online and at the door. You're going to listen, we said this a few weeks ago. I made a joke about how my wife couldn't even take her purse into a high school football game. Okay, that's fine. If that's the world we're living in, that's fine. But we're going to have to do that across the board. And it really sucks that we have to go to that length. But if we want to be safe, that's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to start taking security very seriously. We're going to have to, implement magnetometers, none of this wanding mess. And like, I'm barely looking through your purse like TSA does. Like, you're going to have to have trained professionals. Another good deterrent, Hayley, and this is sort of outside the box, hire a canine. Nothing deters somebody like a big German Shepherd or a Belgian Malinois. That'll get my attention pretty quick. That could be a BORT criteria right there. I mean, you don't know if that's a bomb dog or if that's a drug dog or if that dog will just bite your ass, but you don't want to find out either.
Right. Oh, totally. No, I totally get that. I agree with you. When you made a point about, your wife's bag, and I'm not trying to sound like a rabid liberal feminist, because you all know that I'm not, right? But it's not usually the women with their bags that have the bomb or the gun or whatever. I mean, I feel like women and their bags are scrutinized and they have to go. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't be, but it's like, I saw this TikTok video and it made me laugh because someone was like, okay, well, if I have to bring in a clear bag, then your cargo pants have to be clear too, because, who knows what these guys are bringing in. And it just seems like, we're not usually the problem. Normally it's the guys. And, the only way around it, like you said, is to go through like a TSA type thing. And it just seems like the world we're living in it's a scary one, and we are grateful for your insight to help us navigate these kinds of situations. So Scott Bryson, thank you so much for being here. Host of Beyond the Service podcast. This has been Tactical Detail.
Thank you.
Someone in the chat said, you're so naive. Why? Why am I naive? For what?
I didn't catch why.
Because I said that men are the ones who carry out these things. Is that naive? I don't know. Show me a woman who carried in a bomb in her bag into a concert. You can let me know. Well, we're at an hour, so
no scrolling time.
I guess no scrolling time. We'll save it for tomorrow.
But it's a good one. So that's a tease, right? Tune in for tomorrow.
It's a good one. It's a good one. So thank you for tuning in tonight. If you liked this episode, you can watch Scott Bryson on Nightly Scroll every Thursday evening for Tactical Detail. We love him. He's a Silver Lock contributor. Of course, you should watch this show because I have fun putting it together. I hope you all do too. Teasing scrolling time for tomorrow because it's a good one. And of course, you can follow me at Hayley Caronia on all social media platforms. In the meantime, thank you for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.